If you close your eyes and picture the Roman Empire, you probably see the same thing I used to. A civilized world, connected by a miracle of engineering. We are taught that Rome brought order to chaos. We believe that these roads were the ancient equivalent of the internet, a network designed to connect people, foster international trade, and improve the lives of everyday citizens. And the evidence seems to support this view. After all, we find Roman pottery in India. We find Roman coins in Vietnam. It makes sense to assume that the roads were the arteries of a benevolent, booming economy. History books often describe the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, as a time when a citizen could walk safely from Egypt to Britain on paved stones. I grew up believing this story. It appeals to us because we like to think of infrastructure as inherently good. We project our own modern values onto the past. We assume that because we build roads for commerce and commuters, they must have done the same. And when you stand on the stones of Pompeii today, it is easy to be seduced by that narrative. The stones feel permanent. They feel inevitable. But this is a survivor's bias. We only see the stones that survived, so we assume everything was stone. But if you actually look at the logistics, the costs, and the laws of the time, that beautiful image of a free trade empire begins to crack. The first crack in the story appears when you look at the timeline. The Queen of Roads, the Via Appia, wasn't built during the Golden Age of Peace. It was built in 312 BCE by a censor named Appius Claudius Caecus. And he didn't build it for merchants. Rome was fighting the Samnite Wars, a brutal, existential slog against hill tribes that were humiliating the Roman legions. The legions were getting bogged down in the mud, unable to move supplies or reinforcements. Appius Claudius built the road for one reason: to shove a spear down the throat of the enemy. It was a weapon. But here is where the math really challenges the trade network myth. The primary arterial network spanned roughly 80,000 kilometers, while the secondary network of graveled and local roads extended significantly further, though 300,000 kilometers is the latest estimate for the entire verifiable web. But only a fraction of that was actually paved with heavy stone blocks. That's a small minority of the total path. While those gravel roads were sophisticated engineering feats, the vast majority of the empire's budget was funneled into these high-speed stone corridors. And then there is the cost. We have records indicating that a top-tier paved road could cost up to 100,000 sesterces per kilometer. To put that in perspective, a legionary soldier earned about 900 sesterces a year. 1 kilometer of road cost more than the annual salary of 100 men. Why would an empire spend that kind of fortune just so a farmer could sell his cheese in the next town over? They wouldn't. The numbers don't add up, unless the purpose of the road was something else entirely. To understand what these roads really were, we have to look beneath the surface, literally. Let's look at the engineering itself. We have descriptions of this painstaking process from authors like the poet Statius, who watched the Via Domitiana rise from the earth. He describes a process that is less like building a path and more like building a wall, laid on its side. It starts with the statimen, hand-sized stones rammed into the foundation. Then the rudus, a layer of crushed rock and lime, practically concrete. Then the nucleus, fine gravel and sand to level the surface. And finally, the summum dorsum, those iconic polygonal basalt blocks. This structure is 3 to 5 feet deep. That is comparable in depth to our modern heavy-duty interstate highways, an incredible feat for an era without mechanized excavation. Why build it so thick? Because these roads weren't designed for wagon wheels. They were designed for boots. Thousands of boots, marching in unison, creating a rhythmic vibration that would shatter a lesser road. This brings us to the second piece of evidence, the speed limit, or rather, the lack of one for the state. Emperor Augustus established a system called the cursus publicus. We often think of this as a postal service, like the USPS or Royal Mail. It wasn't. It was a state-run relay system strictly for official business. Every few miles there was a mutatio, a changing station with fresh horses. With this system, a message could travel from Rome to Germany in days, not weeks. But here is the catch. To use this system, you needed a diplomata. This was a warrant signed by the emperor or a high governor. While the physical road was open to the public, the high-speed logistics system was a closed loop. If you were a wealthy merchant with a wagon full of wine and you tried to use fresh horses at a way station, you would be turned away. Private travelers had to rely on their own animals and private inns. If you clogged up the road when a legion was marching, you were moved, forcefully. The system was an exclusive lane for the administration of power. It was a closed loop for the administration of power. But perhaps the most damning evidence is who paid for it. You might assume the imperial treasury in Rome footed the bill. Wrong. Rome used a system called munera. The central government ordered the road to be built, but the cost of construction and maintenance fell on the local communities the road passed through. Imagine the government decides to build a superhighway through your backyard. They don't pay you for the land, they don't pay for the materials, and they force you and your neighbors to build it for free. For a local landowner, a paved Roman road wasn't an economic opportunity. It was a financial catastrophe. It was a tax written in stone. And what did you get in return for your bankruptcy? Did you get wealth? No. You got the tax collector, who could now reach your village in half the time. You got the magistrate, and if you ever stepped out of line, you got the legions. The most famous example of this was the Boudiccan Revolt in 60 CE. And Queen Boudica rose up and burned Roman London to the ground. She had the numbers. But the Roman governor, Suetonius Paulinus, had the roads. He was able to concentrate his scattered forces with terrifying speed. The road allowed him to choose the battlefield. It allowed him to dictate the engagement. The very infrastructure the Britons had been forced to build was the weapon used to destroy them. This is the reality of the network. And that's when it clicks. We have been looking at these roads as bridges, but they were actually shackles. The Roman road network was not an economic gift to the provinces. It was a mechanism of subjugation. It was designed to turn the sprawling, messy geography of Europe into a controlled, accessible grid. The straightness of the road, that famous, unwavering Roman line that ignores hills and valleys, it wasn't just engineering efficiency. It was a statement of dominance. It said, nature does not dictate where we go. We dictate where we go. The 100,000 sesterces per kilometer wasn't an investment in the people. It was the cost of maintaining a cage. The roads allowed Rome to extract resources, grain from Egypt, silver from Spain, tin from Britain, and funnel them all to the center. And in return, they sent out orders, laws, and troops. It was a one-way street of power. Suddenly, The fact that 80% of the network was gravel or earth makes perfect sense. The state paved the strategic arteries it needed for its armies. The rest, the local paths for the civilians, were left as simpler, though still engineered, tracks. This changes how we see the map of the ancient world. It wasn't a world connected by commerce. It was a world pinned down by logistics. This Roman road network reminds us that infrastructure is never neutral. A road can be a path to freedom, or it can be a vector for control. It depends on who is building it and who they are building it for. The Romans taught us how to build for eternity, but they also taught us that connection always comes with a cost. But the roads aren't the only piece of Roman technology we've misunderstood. I'm here to help you know the builders of the past. What ancient engineering still blows your mind? Share your favorite below. See you at the next foundation.